I'm Vi. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to get into astrology. I'm going to give you the lowdown of what I've learned so far. I actually started my spiritual journey a couple years ago by doing a deep dive on myself and my birth chart. So I'm thinking of doing like a series and using my birth chart as an example to try to get my points across. So yeah, if you'd like to know and learn about astrology through my point of view, what I've gathered and how I've interpreted it, keep on watching. Okay, so I've been planning on doing this video for a while. Ever since I started my channel, I've been wanting to do more than just makeup looks. But then this week, the Try Guys dropped a tripod podcast episode on astrology, spearheaded by Eugene, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take that as a sign and get this video out ASAP. So, astrology. What is astrology? Astrology, by like the definition of the actual word, how it's built, is the study of stars. Astro for stars, ology for study. Instead of categorizing astrology as like a science, I like to think of it as more like time, which just exists. Time is, right? So if time is to a clock, astrology is to like multiple clocks of like various circumferences that work all at once in tandem to each other. Eventually you discover patterns the more you pay attention, which then can allow you to make educated predictions. For example, a clock will always strike 12 twice a day, right? Astrology has been around since approximately 1950 BCE, so humans have had time to observe the stars in relation to the Earth. It's a system of patterns upon patterns upon patterns based on the movement of celestial bodies, in space, in relation to Earth, its seasons, and earthly events. Another thing to note is that just like time, astrology does not cause things to happen. It reflects things that can and or will happen. But just because your natal chart reflects things about you, like both the good and the bad, as it's a snapshot of the stars and planets at the time of your birth, it does not give you an excuse to be a shitty person. Or more importantly, stay a shitty person if you already are a shitty person. Your chart is meant to give insight about yourself. So use it as a self-awareness tool, a cheat sheet for your life, a guide on where you can improve and what you can do if you find yourself stuck in an area of your life. It's also fun as fuck. Like, come on now. Who doesn't want to learn about themselves more and what they can do to improve themselves? And that of those they care about, right? Astrology is a study, which does not necessarily make it a science. People like to call astrology a pseudoscience, quote unquote, and write it off as bullshit. But typically, those people only think that because when they think of astrology, they think of like the vague horoscopes that you can find in magazines and newspapers and shit, without realizing that there's so much more to it than your like tropical sun sign, which is the day of your birth, right? It's like if more people just knew what astrology actually was and like at least were interested enough to know more about it before they like shit on it, that would be great. I want to normalize, if you ask me, I want to normalize like asking people like what their big three are, which is your sun, your rising, and your moon, instead of just asking like what your sign is or whatever, which is your sun sign. It's just like, yeah, your sun sign's like your personality, your core, what you like and dislike and all that shit, but like the real combo to look out for is sun plus rising. rising is actually the most you sign out there. So, and then combine that with your sun. It's like, okay, you can probably peg that person pretty well. And then the moon is just a bonus, to be quite honest. I'll get into that in another video, but right now, I'm just talking about astrology in general. But yeah, in conclusion, like, if you ask me, learn your time of birth, if you haven't already, and calculate your rising sign. Because that's I think personally, for me, the rising sign is the sign that you need to look out for. Because your rising sign, jumping ahead of myself, but your rising sign is like the outside. Think of it as like a sundae. Like it's the toppings and like the whatever sauce you like to put on your sundae, right? It's like the first thing that you see. Or like I'm gonna steal this example from Astro Finesse. Like, think of it as like the wrapping paper on a present, right? So it's like the first thing you see. So I think that's the sign personally that I want to know about people. And then combine that with your sun sign, and you're like, oh okay. But anyway, yeah. Going back to like the whole like, people thinking astrology is bullshit because they don't know, or like they refuse to like admit that like there's a system out there that can accurately predict, or at least have like an educated guess on how a person ticks without empirical evidence. That rubs people the wrong way apparently. And it's just like, well, what about religion? And also, there hasn't been like a dedicated research study on astrology. I would love like somebody out there, some eccentric billionaire or whatever, like if you can fund like a 10-year study on people's birth charts, like that would be awesome. Like and I just want data. I just want like one way or another, like data to support some kind of answer, some kind of theory, right? Because I was talking to a friend recently, actually. I asked my friend who's a mathematician, like, how many natal chart combinations are out there, are possible, right? The maximum number. And she ran it through a calculation based off of, 12 signs, 12 zodiac signs, 12 houses, and like, I think 14 planets and comets / asteroids. And she came up with, what's the number? Let me look it up real quick. Here it is. Okay. So she did her calculation with the info that I gave her, and she came up with 2,359,296 possible natal chart combinations. And I was like, whoa. But that like includes like a chart that has no planets in it, like all the planets in one house, etc. So like that number is actually lower. But I use that number anyway. I think I did 2.4 million divided by the number of people on Earth at the moment, which is like about 7.8 billion. I did that calculation and I came up with 3,250 people on Earth that have the exact natal birth chart as you, which is crazy. If the actual number of combinations that could possibly exist, or actually exist rather, was lower, that 3,000 number is actually higher. So there's like roughly like 3,500 people on the planet that have the same natal birth chart as you. Like, think about that. Can you imagine gathering all 3,000 plus people that have the same birth chart and just do a study? It's because technically, if it's exactly the same, then a lot of the aspects of their lives should be similar, right? I would love to see the data on that, but who knows? maybe, the science isn't there yet. That's what I think. The science isn't there, the equipment isn't there yet to measure this kind of thing. I hope it's coming. I think it's coming. I mean, how long did it take for, man to set up a sundial and then transfer that into a clock, right? So, going back to the time is equivalent to astrology analogy that I threw in the beginning. But, yeah. That's it for now. Those are my thoughts on astrology in general. I think next video I'll go into like the astrological signs, the 12 signs. There's actually 13 signs. Did you know that? But yeah, I'll get into that next video. But yeah, comment, like, subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. Ring your bell. And set it to all so you never miss a video. My friend told me, tell people to set their notification bell on. I'm like, alright, well, sure, I can do that too. But yeah, thanks for watching and listening to me ramble about astrology. Until next time, joop joop.